Welcome in to the FloTrack podcast, everyone. I'm Kevin, joined by Gordon. Wednesday morning episode, a couple days before Gordon hits the road to go back to one of his top 10 favorite states. Gordon, good morning. How are you?
Doing good. Leave tomorrow. And then I'm going to go on a little mini vacation. I'm going to go to Sedona, go to Grand Canyon. Have you ever been to Grand Canyon?
I have, but I was very small. I do not have any recollection of going, but I've been there.
So, very small. So I heard I've been there when I was also very small. So I wonder if the size of it will shrink because I got bigger. So my perspective of it changed because I was a smaller person. So it'll be a good week. Going out to Flagstaff for some workouts and then doing a little R&R while we get ready for what's going to be a wild final few weeks before the trials, right? We're about 9 weeks out for the Olympic trials. People still need to get their marks in. It's going to be a rush to the finish line to get to Eugene.
Absolutely. That's a great way to describe it. And on today's show, we're going to preview the West Coast Relays, which is shaping up to be a sensational meet this weekend for collegiate athletes in particular. We'll also talk about the latest in the Tinman Elite coaching story. But first, I wanted to start with your Olympic trials qualifier list posted, or the Olympic trial list. You didn't know who's in and posted. You did the research on who's in and who has the Olympic standard. Can you walk us through what's up on the site, what people can find there, and why it might be useful?
Yeah, so if you go to FloTrack.org rankings and click on the 2021 U.S. Olympic Trials qualifiers list, I put everything in one section. Basically, you scroll on this for people watching on YouTube. It has every event for athletes, basically what USATF looks at their current mark, because USATF takes marks all the way back to 2019, January 1. I list if they have the auto standard for the trials, if they have the Olympic standard for the Olympics, so yes or no. Also, if they don't have the auto standard for the trials, if they have the field-to-field standard, meaning if they are still in the top 30 or top 24, whatever the field size is for the trials, would they still get in with a mark that isn't the trials standard? And then also the next people out. And the reason why I included the people out is because obviously not everyone will enter every event. So you can kind of look at the list and be like, hey, even though I'm ranked 32nd and 30 get to go, I think there's going to be 2 people in that top 30. Like maybe Donovan Brazier doesn't run the 400, which is probably something likely. So it's a good way to figure out who can make the trials, who won't, and also who has the standard, right? And it's kind of interesting because there are some people who don't have the standard, but they have a mark that gets them in. So I'm trying to find a good example. Basically, the situation is if people ran fast in 2020, USATF recognized that mark, but the Olympic Standard Committee did not, because they turned 2020 into a non-don't run year, whatever. And then also I have a setting called in rankings quota. So if you bring that up on the screen, if your mark, for instance, let's look at this men's 800 right now. Donovan Brazier, Bryce Hoppel, Clayton Murphy, Craig Engels, Devin Dixon all have the Olympic standard. But then the next 3 people in line right there, Brandon Kidder, Isaiah Harris, and Eric Sawinski, while they don't have the standard, they have the in rankings quota standard. And what that means is they may not have run a fast enough time, but in the eyes of the World Athletics Federation, they have a high enough world ranking that USATF could select them, and IAAF or the World Ranking Committee will accept them into the Olympics because their ranking is high enough, which is going to be a factor. There will be, I think, a handful of athletes who go to the Olympics without the Olympic standard, but they get in because they have a good world ranking. So it's something to keep track of. Anyway, I'll update this list every few weeks, and you can keep track.
One question we've got, and and it's probably shared by a bunch of people out there, is the 10,000. Do you know anything about the 10,000, i.e., if there's more than 24 qualifiers or more than 24 people who decide to run that race, what they're going to do? Are they going to expand the field? I think the idea of adding heats to the 10K is out. I don't think that's a possibility. But do you know what they're going to do in the 10,000?
I don't know what they're going to do, but I can assume what they'll do is if you have the standard you're going, they're not going to not let someone go with who has the standard, right? And I think in the women's situation in the 10K, I think if you scroll down to the women, how many people have the standard in the 10K currently?
Let's put that up right now. Let's put that up so people can see.
Yeah, if you scroll all the way down.
It's so long.
Keeps going. There it is. All right, so 38. So 38 women have the standard for a field of 24. That's an extra 14. Yeah. There may be even more to come. I think what will happen is I think they'll put them all in one giant heat. And I think, hey, if the NCAA can handle a 10K prelim with 48 people on the track, I think the Olympic trials can handle a 10K final with 40 people on the track. It will be weird. I think what they'll do is they'll say, hey, the people with the faster standard get the front line. The people who aren't as fast be in line 2 behind them. And then you just go. I mean, it's fine. 25 laps is a long enough time to spread it out for 40 plus people. I think it'll be fine.
I agree. I mean, the idea that they would somehow add in a section here to especially for the women's 10,000, which comes at the end, you're going to have just because you're going to have people who make the team. You're going to have people who are injured. Men's 10 might be a little bit different at the front, but yeah, it's a deep list there. The 1,500, I think, is going to be interesting too when it comes to the who has it, who's in the quota versus who has the time qualifier. That's going to be something to watch there too, because we've been talking about the big three for a couple months now with Centro, Engels, and Thompson. So who else in that men's 15 can make it just based on where they are in the world rankings?
Check this out. Look at the men's list on the screen. We'll bring that up. So the top 3 have the standard, right? Then Henry Wynn, who has the 4th fastest time, is not in the rankings quota, but Johnny Gregoric, who has the 5th fastest time, is, right? And then Kidder, Tier, and Hawker don't have it, but then the 9th best guy, Sam Prakel, is in the rankings quota. Donovan Brazier's not, but then the 11th best guy is in the rankings quota. And if you scroll all the way down, again, for people watching on YouTube, go all the way down to the people who are out. Look who currently isn't in the field. You have the USA mile champion in Erica Villa, who currently has the 38th fastest 1,500, and Yair Nuguse, a man who we think can challenge for an Olympic team spot, who has only run 3:38 since 2019, who's currently ranked 39th. So there's a lot of movement coming soon to the 1,500. I assume Erica Villa will be making the trials. He'll have to improve on his 338.3, and Yair Nuguse, same thing. So there's just a lot of interesting things going on in the men's 1,500, and we just have to wait for them to start running fast, right? We need fast 1,500s. We can't just rely on the Josh Kerrs and Oliver Hoares and Jacob Ingebrigtsens to come in and run fast. We need Americans to do it.
They're not going to save you. Okay. We could see some fast distance races this weekend, although mostly on the collegiate side, this West Coast race on FloTrack. People can check it out. I wanted to zoom in on a couple events, and we'll just go in distance order here, Gordon. So we'll start with the women's 8, then we'll do the 1,500s. The women's steeple is stacked, and then the 5Ks and the 10Ks. Let's start first, though, with this women's 800 list here. You can see the start list up on the screen there, headlined by Sage Herda, the indoor champ from Colorado, Carly Thomas of Washington also in there, and then BYU. A good chance to see how many points BYU potentially has outside of Orton and Weymouth in the 800, because they're going to run with Camp, Alina Ellsworth, Lauren Ellsworth, and Claire Seymour, who are all potential point scorers. at the NCAA meet, but we'll get a chance to see just how good that group is in the women's 800.
Yeah, Sage Herder is kind of an interesting athlete to watch. She's been running on fire everywhere she goes. She's run 2 flat multiple times on the track. She's even dropped down into the 400, runs a fast 400 times. And she's the mile champion indoors. But the thing is, Sage Herder has this weird situation, which like, all right, what is my lane? Is my lane to run the 800 or the 1500? Because, if she goes into the 800, you're running against someone you're running against a Thing Mo. Thing Mo's going to run the 800, I think, this year. She's not going to dodge it for 400 like she did indoors. So you have to think maybe Sage Herder may once again be one of the better 800-meter runners in the country, but opt to do the 1500 because there's more of an opportunity to win another national title the way she did that indoors.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're Sage Herder's coach, what do you do going into NCAAs? Do you try to ride an 800 or do you go back into the 1500?
1500, I think, because I think a Thing Mo was going to run the 800. I think Mo's run 157 in the 800 this season. And 1500 is still going to be difficult with people like Whitney Orton in the mix. But, I mean, Herda's been running well. You see this indoor performance that she had. That was at 431 in Ames. But just this past weekend in Eugene, it was a little bit under the radar because she was in that pro race, right? Runs 408 in the 15. 408's a solid time for a collegiate runner. So I think one of the 2 or 3 people you'd think of as a potential 1500-meter champion. Whereas in the 800, it's a Thing Mo, obviously Aaliyah Miller, the indoor 8 champ, and then it would be Herda. I don't know. Maybe Herda and Miller are equal, but Mo is just so far ahead of everybody else. It seems like you'd go for the win here, and you have a chance at winning in that 1500.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. Do you think she could break 2 at the West Coast Relays? Now that she's going up against some fast BYU women and Washington athlete?
Yeah, so she ran, 2 flat 62 in Phoenix, which was her PB, 100%. So any other year, you'd be talking about this being a really difficult choice, 8 or 15, especially if she runs 159.9. Any other year, you'd say, maybe she should the 800, but there's to be a 157 person in the NCAA this year, which I know you don't want to base your entire championship racing plans around one person, but if the goal is to win, you need to factor in that you have a all-time talent in your event this year, which is just part of the game.
Men's 1500 at the West Coast Relays, I think, could be one of the better events coming up. It's deep beyond deep. I was trying to skim through the names of who I thought was notable, and I got to over 12. I think I got to so many names that probably people on this list will be in Heat 2 and not just in the invite heat. But running through the list, you have someone like Sam Tanner, Washington, Sam Prakel, Adidas, Nico Young running the 15, Connor Mance, Mick Stanisvec of Washington, BYU's Talon Franco and Lucas Bonds, and Casey Klinger. More Washington guys and Cruz Culpepper, Leo Doshbach. Remember Leo Doshbach? He was the man of 2020, breaking 4 in high school. Eduardo Herrera of Colorado, Theo Quax of Northern Arizona, Chris Ollie. He's now a post-collegiate. But yeah, Sam Tanner, I think, is the headliner here, going up against Sam Prakel, who, is a great U.S. athlete as well. What do you think they run? I mean, we haven't seen Tanner. Has he run a 1500 yet this season? I mean, Basically, everyone is on the UW staff are all coming in all in on the 1500 because you got Prakel there, and then also Mick and Cruz Culpepper and Leo Doshbach, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so this is what we have from Tanner since he ran at NCAAs and went out in the first round. The only thing I have on him is a 148-800. And I believe, we got his T-first page up right there. Yeah, it looks like just the 148-800. So he's got something to prove. I think we're going to see something quick. Obviously, both of his 1,500-meter times from the winter were really quick. You're in that 36, and you're in the 3:34 in New York indoors, which was just nuts, breaking that national record. I don't know, though. Whatever he does, I don't know if I'm going to be sold just because I want to see him do it in a championship race, because when you go out in the first round, you want some evidence that you can do it throughout the rounds. But I think, especially if Hawker decides he wants to do the 5,000, which I don't know if he's going to do, puts Tanner in a good spot against Nick Goose. But I'm just excited to see him race again, because I want to see if he's able to continue what he did indoors, because indoors was so good, but it got overshadowed because he went out in the first round, and then you had Hawker completely steal the show. There's an alternate reality there where Tanner is the guy we're talking about out of indoors, or it's like Tanner / Tier, as opposed to Hawker now getting all of the attention, or a lion's share of the attention.
Yeah, it's so true. It's interesting thinking about different alternate realities. I mean, what would the reality be if cross country happened during the fall, and then you had Yared and Goose in the mix, you had a Luis Grijalva, you had the BYU guys? It would have been another unique combination of who would be talking about coming out. But yeah, I think Tanner's going to go in here, and I think he can run probably in the 336, 337 range if he wants it. I have to imagine he's already got the ticket to the Olympics, so that's off his plate, because he was announced to go to the Olympics with his countryman Nick Willis. What's the age gap between Sam Tanner and Nick Willis? It's like 20 years.
It's
probably not 20 years.
It's hefty.
Almost. It's hefty.
Well, let's see. Sam Tanner's 20. So it's not 20. It's not 20 years like fully 18? Because Nick Willis is he 38? Let's see. He is 38. Yeah, about 18.
Damn. So a whole Nico Young between them. They have a
whole voting age person in between them.
A whole voting age person. A whole yeah. But yeah, I think he's going to go out fast. I think having Tanner in that race is definitely going to pull along the rest of the field, and I think we'll see a lot of 1,500-meter PRs. I think someone like Nico Young will probably run lower in the 340s. I think he ran 344. Nico Young did. We'll get another Nico Young versus Casey Klinger match. They race each other in the cross-country course. Not Casey Klinger versus Connor Mantz. Yeah, so Nico Young versus Connor Mantz, 2.0, but this time in a 1,500. Connor Mantz has wheels. It'll be interesting to see what he can do in an all-out 1,500. And Nico Young now, after running 13:24, you got to imagine he should be able to run closer to a sub 340 than not, right? I mean, most of the people who are running 13:20s and better, they're all sub 340 guys.
So his PB is 344. I have Mantz's PB at 345. You're going to see a lot of grinding from the gun from these two guys. I guess they're going to hope the pace goes out quick. It'll be kind of fun to see the two 5K, 10K cross country type specialists go at it in a 1,500. I think we're going to see the weather supposed to be hot, but not factor for the 15 as it would be for the longer stuff. I mean, Connor Mantz usually doesn't even he starts his kick farther out than 1,500 meters, even in a cross country race. So maybe he's going to get like the world's most intense warm up, I think, before this race in Fresno to get going. You brought up Culpepper and Dashbach, two young guys from Colorado that are very interesting. Eduardo Herrera as well in the mix. He's running really fast, 5,000. What do you expect to see from the two young Washington guys, though, Culpepper and Dashbach?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where because if Culpepper and Dashbach lived in the era of like 5 to 7 years ago, they would be talked about so much more. But because of the talent in the nation has just continued to get better and better, they're, because if you scroll down to their personal bests, so that's their head-to-head, but if you scroll down to their personal bests, I mean, look at their personal best. They both run 3:59. One run it outdoors, one's run it indoors, and they both did that in like high school or first year in college. They're like this young raw talent, but the level of all of a sudden running 3:59 is the equivalent of running like 4:10 10 years ago, and so they 3:59 isn't enough anymore. In order to become an elite, like a Cole Hawker type or Nico Young or uh, a Sam Tanner type, you need to be 3:55 or better. So
Yeah.
I'm sure training with Andy, they'll get them there. But maybe it's going to be a year or two. Maybe their sophomore, junior type years will be the years where they start entering that 3:55 range, being able to run sub 3:40 consistently, and being in contention to win national titles. But yeah, man, Andy Powell has so much young talent in Doshbach and Culpepper and Sam Tanner. It's like rich of riches. And it just never stops. You see this race here. This is Doshbach. Put that up on the screen. Doshbach running his sub 4 in high school in the middle of a pandemic. Badass right there. Look at that.
His kick was impressive. That was last year. You're right. Time has stood still and probably didn't get the attention that it normally would have, just because of how fast everybody has been running and how common now sub 4s have become, or at least not as once in a lifetime as they used to be. But yeah, he's got to close too, which is what you want to have in a miler. He's not just going to grind it out and run 59.9s for every quarter. Good race there on tap with that 1500. Man, let's go to the women's 15 then. Women's 15, Whitney Orton, 412 PB. That comes from indoors. I have her beating that by a sizable amount in this race. There's a group of people who are racing this meet, Gordon. Like they're going to obliterate their PR because this is fast race they've been in a couple of years, or they haven't run this event in a couple of years. And I would put Whitney Orton on that list. Caitlin Tui is also in the race. She has a 414 1500 PB and ran 416 this year. Arkansas is going to feature Chrissy Gear and Karina Villon, and BYU is also running Anna Camp, Lauren Ellsworth, and Olivia Hoy. Let's start here first with Orton. I mean, you were out there for that workout with her during the winter cross-country season, the one of only 4 workouts that she had during cross. We saw what she did in the NCAA championships, was in the mix until the last K, and then drifted back. But this is her event, the 15. I mean, she's been good at the 5 as well too, and been good at cross country. But I always just see her as a 1500 meter runner because she's naturally just so aggressive.
Yeah, she is kind of falling in the boat of, I think, a Louis Grijalva, who will be also in this mean the 5K, of this really great talent who has put down some fast track times, but doesn't really have the NCAA moment. And we kind of expected that NCAA moment to happen during the cross-country season, but it didn't happen. I mean, both of Whitney Orton and Louis Grijalva were preseason number 1s, I believe, in cross-country. But both of them, they're not meant to be the best in cross-country. They're meant to be the best in their niche event, which is either the 1500 or 5K. And I think we kind of give athletes like Grijalva and Whitney Orton a little bit of a ding on their resume because of cross-country performance, but mainly it's because we're just searching for something that's recent, when really they just haven't been able to been given an opportunity. Both of them didn't do indoors. Both of them didn't do indoors 2 years ago, whatever. And I think Whitney Orton will come out and be like, hey, I can run sub 410. I can challenge the Alexis Sage Herta, and I could be an NCAA potential champion. The same thing with Louis Grijalva in the 5K later on in this meet. So, yeah, Whitney Orton, I think it's kind of like a weird coming out party that she'll have. Is like, don't forget about me. When the grass becomes a track and the spikes become dragonflies, I'm ready to go. So
put that in the back of a t-shirt, track coaches. That was good. Gordon just giving you gold right there. I think we're going to come away from the weekend because I think Herta and Orton are both going to run. We're going to be talking about those 2 favorites for the 1500 on the women's side. I think that's going to be the takeaway from the West Coast relays. There'll be other names in the mix, but I think those two are going to separate themselves. Tui, 414, I think is well within her range. She's already run a 416 weather dependent, and obviously that would be a good run for her. Running those 1200s indoors and on those DMRs probably helped. Like, she had an interesting indoor / cross country season because she was doing, she had the cross country season, but she also was running these distance medley relay legs. So she was in shape kind of for both things, which kept her sharp, I believe. I would expect her to run somewhere in the 410, 411 range if I had to pick.
Do you think that the 1500 is still an option for her in her career, or do you think it's already solid that you're a 5K and up type athlete? I mean, kind of the way Grant Fisher came into college, she's like, yeah, I'm a miler. And then we're like, no, you're not. You're running the 5K your entire time in college.
Yeah. I think long term, she's a 5 and 10, but I still think she can, just based on how good she is in those events, running in the 1530s, in the 5,000, she can run some good 1500 meter marks as well. Maybe 410 with the weather, maybe 410, 411 is a little ambitious, but I think she can PB. I think she can dip under 414 in this race and definitely get a season best here. Is there anybody from that other group that you're looking at as a potential, I don't even want to say surprise because all these women have accomplished big things on the championship stage, but Gear, Villion, someone like that, Camp. Is there anybody else, any sleepers?
Yeah, I would say Olivia Hodge. How do you say H-O-J?
Hoy.
How do you say that? Hoy. Olivia Hoy of BYU, I think, is a sleeper. And then also I think Chrissy Gear of Arkansas. She's a good miler. You see that Instagram photo of her and Villion. Yeah, so Arkansas can kind of sneak in, maybe get the win. But it's going to be a Whitney Orton win. Pretty sure it's a matter of it's like her versus the clock.
Mm-hmm. All right, women's steeple. This is another one where I think the NCAA championship picture is going to be reoriented after this weekend because Courtney Weymouth of BYU, the two-time NCAA indoor champion, is running her first steeple since 2017, Gordon, where she had a mark of 10:04. I think she's going to smash that. That was 4 years ago. I think she's going to crush it. I think she's going to run sub 950. And in that race is Hannah Stielman, who is one of the best in the nation. So we'll get to see Stielman versus Weymouth, which could end up being a preview of what we see at the NCAA championship. Do we know for sure, like, Camelli is going to do steeple? Idea on that?
Of who's going to do the steeple?
Don't we have Joyce Camelli in the steeple right now?
Joyce Camelli. Yeah. To be honest, man, I have no idea. They're all these women. They're running the 8s, they're running the 10s, the 5s, the steeples, the 1500s. They're not making it easy to figure out. They're kind of just like, oh yeah, and then that's the problem, man. People need to just. What's the secret? Who are you trying to hide it from? Just let us know. You should be able to put on your T-First page, I am doing this event, so so I can accurately rank events. Someone like Katie Rainsberger, all of a sudden, you can see, put up a little video of her run the steeple. She just started running the steeple her 5th year, senior year, right? She's like, all right, I'm going to become a steeplechaser. You can see her on the screen there. Yeah, so you don't know anymore. Everyone is running the steeple. Everyone's not running it. Everyone's running 15. Everyone's in 5, 10. I mean, we're going to see Shelby Houlihan running a 10K in a few weeks. So, like, I don't even know anymore. These women, they're just range is all over the place.
You're standing by that. I like that. You've been out there on an island for a couple weeks now. When that entry list gets posted, you're just going to see Gordon pumping his fist. It's going to be remarkable. I think, though, Weymouth, obviously, you saw how good she was in the 3K and indoors. I think she's going to be a great steepler. I think the plan, when I talked to the coach after indoors, I think, or maybe it was during indoors, I said, oh, so Courtney's going to focus on the 5K outdoors? She's like, no, steeple. And then I was like, wait, what? She's a steepler? And then I had to go all the way back and realize, okay, yeah, in 2017, she did run the steeple. There's some talent there, though. Obviously, Adva Cohen, is in there in the rankings. You got people like Charlotte Prowse, Camelli, we mentioned, Chrissy Gear, Steelman, Jennings, Devin Clark. There's a lot of experience there, but Weymouth right now, it would be tough to pick against her, assuming she can get over the barriers just because how good she is in a flat 3,000.
Yeah. We just need to know who the field is, right? Because, like you said, you just mentioned Chrissy
Yeah,
Gear,
yeah.
but she's in the 1,500 here, and she ran the mile indoors. So it's like, what's going on, man? Anyway, Courtney Weymouth, I think, though, the question is, does Weymouth want to try to go all in on the steeple and be like, hey, maybe I should try to run in the low 930s, potentially crack a 930 to maybe try to get the Olympic standard? I mean, she has the talent. If she's an 850 quality 3K runner, you have to think that she could be able to flirt with the steeple Olympic standard.
Yes.
And there's not really any time to get the standard post NCAAs because it goes right into the trials. So maybe this is a chance for her to run out of her mind and try to get a steeple standard to go to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Olympic trials.
I think that's part of it too, is can you win your event at the NCAA championships, and can you get a qualifier to get you into the trials and make you competitive at the trials? And if you could do both of those things, then that's a bonus. That makes sense. Anybody around the 5K right now on the NCAA side of things is going to have a tough time, being a factor at the trials just because of how good that event is. Basically 1 through 10, 12, whereas the steeple, after those top couple, there's definitely room for people to make a run at it. Now it's time to talk about Gordon's favorite event. We need an intro for this. We need a song.
Yeah, we need a little graphic, like Ernie, Ernie's Nito stat of the night on TNT's Inside the NBA. We need Gordon's race of the year, the men's 5K.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if Cole Hawker then decides to join it, and it's going to be crazy. And I had a thought the other day. So we're talking about this 5K, right? You have the 2 Oregon guys. You have the 2 Iowa State guys. Grijalva will likely be in there. Nico Young will be in there. Eduardo Herrera, the BYU guys. Probably the Campbell kid who just ran fast. And you'll have a lot, right? What if Yared Naguse does it too? Because he hasn't run since his 5K in March. Is Yared like low key just be like, hey, I'm going to run the 5K at NCAAs? If Yared Naguse is in that, our heads will explode. Because
I know yours will.
Because if it's like a 13:30 pace, Yared Naguse could outkick them all. We forget about the
Wait, why
the
do you
goose
do
kick,
this?
man. We forget about
No,
it.
I don't forget about the goose kick. But he's a 1,500-meter runner. That's what he does outdoors.
So is Cole Hawker. He's a 1,500-meter runner.
And he's probably going to the 1,500 too.
Yeah, well,
you don't know that.
I just want to. It basically, it would be crazy if Yared Naguse was in that race. If he was, let's just do a little fan fiction right here. 5K fan fiction. How do you think it would play out? Let's trim the fat. We're just gonna say Connor Mantz, 2 Iowa State, 2 Oregon, 2 NAU in Grijalva and Young, and Yared Naguse. I'm sorry, Arkansas guys. I'm sorry, Campbell. I'm sorry, Eduardo Herrera. We just gotta make it simple. How would that race play out? Assuming Naguse, Hawker, Grijalva, and everyone else is in it.
I think it's going to go fast from the gun because you have the 2 state guys in there.
Okay, so
go fast. Go fast.
Right. So it'd be like 13:20 pace for like the first 2 miles.
Have you seen Wesley Kiptoo? It might be world record pace for the first 1,200.
All right, so now give me a play-by-play of the final 400. Who's in the lead at the bell?
Right now, I would not pick against Cole Hawker. I'll just cut to the chase. I would not pick against Cole Hawker in a fast race or in any sort of race right now. I would not pick against him, but I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to run the 5,000. I think he's going to run the 1,500.
So I think someone like Cooper Tier will be in the lead at the bell because he'll make a move 800 out. And then
Yeah.
once we get to the final 300, that's when Grijalva will make a pass, and Grijalva will take the lead with 250 to go. Nagus, though, will still be sitting in fourth the entire time. And then Hawker will then make his kick, make a pass on Grijalva. And then Nagus will then be a late kick in the final 50, but then Grijalva outleans them all. And that's how it'll be. So it'll be just very dramatic. Hayward Field will go wild.
I don't think it would be that crowded if it's that fast. I think if it's that fast, I think it'll narrow it down a lot quicker because there'll be some people who aren't having that good a day, and there'll be some people who just can't hang with the pace. So it would be like Kiptu, Kurgat, and maybe two other guys at halfway. Who those other two are, I don't know. I lean right now towards Hawker being one of them, but I don't think it'd be as crowded as you. Oh, we have a Gordon's Race of the Year graphic. Here, put this thing on. Oh, this is great. Anytime we talk about the 5K now, there it is. There it is. Okay, talk about this.
No, we don't need to talk. I don't need to talk over this weird ass screenshot of my face.
No, I think we do. West Coast Relays. Men's 5,000. Relays.
All right, 5K coming up. We have Louis Grijalva of NAU, John Dressel. Remember him? He's still in college, surprisingly, of Colorado. Andrew Jordan of Washington, Dylan Maggard of Hoka, Sam Prakel, who's probably pacing, and then two NAU guys, Brody Hasty, Drew Bosley in the mix. I think this is definitely – there are also some like Stanford guys and a few other Washington guys in this race. I think some coaches around the nation have recognized in the West that, hey, running 1350 or 1346 or 48 might not be enough to get in. So I think this is kind of like an insurance run for the likes of Andrew Jordan and other Washington guys and some of the Stanford guys. Clearly, Louis Grijalva is better than everyone here. Andrew Jordan's run 1330 indoors, so he can be there in that second position. But I guess the question I would have for you or myself or for everyone is how does Grijalva approach this after seeing four guys run the 1320, 13 teens? He's a 1316 guy from December, not that long ago.
Yeah.
Does he try to respond to that and be like, hey, go out there and run like a 1320 solo? Or is he like, all right, I just need to run like 1335 to get into the West? That's the question.
I think it's more of the latter. If it was conditions like at Stanford, like we're seeing right now from this kick that he had a few years back, you'd say, hey, just go for it. But I think it's just get a qualifying time and make sure you're in the heat. It's hard to do it if temperatures are in or 90s. So
you're breaking up there in this kick. Your audio is breaking up there in the kicks. Grijalva's presence on our screen has caused your audio to go in and out. So we'll take Grijalva off the screen so we can see Kevin talk clearly. But yeah, I guess the question is there anything Grijalva could do in this race that would make you look at him as the favorite in the 5K over a Hawker or a Tier?
I mean, if he goes out and essentially solos like a 1320 flat, then yeah, I would think, okay, this guy's legit. If you're doing it in 88 degrees, you could have enough information to know, hey, if this was the same conditions that they had in Hayward or this was the same conditions that they have in a Stanford type race, he'll be fine. But I just don't, what's the benefit in doing that? What's the purpose in doing that? I think because whether they're just going to try to get a qualifier, move on. He's already got a good PR, and this isn't a PR type situation. Look, would this many people be running in this sort of heat if it wasn't a top 32 make it and the men's 5,000 is nuts this year? Like, would we see more people just staying home, running closer to home, or not even running this race? I think this is borne out because of the pressure just in general of everybody across the NCAA of having good racing opportunities. So they have to go and run this race, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a ideal racing setup is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Travis, if you could go on T first and pull up the West prelim descending order list. We can show that to our people, but I'll bring it up on
You
my
get what I'm
own.
saying, right? You
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying? Like, okay.
yeah. What's the current number? The current number 32 time in the West is Garrett Reynolds, UC Santa Barbara, 1347.03. That's currently number 32. 1347. You throw in Grijalva, who will likely be in there. All of a sudden, the number 32 time will be 1346.9, right? So Andrew Jordan currently is ranked 29th, which is 1346. So if Angie Jordan's 29th at 1346, he probably looks at this race and is like, hey, I need to raise my stock. John Dressel is ranked 17th right now. So yeah, I could see people going into this race being like, hey, we need to run in the basically break 1340 to kind of secure a spot. And maybe that's what Grijalva does. He's like, all right, I'll go out there, run 1338. I'm in. Let's get to work. Let's go to Big Sky and have fun there before we get ready for NCAA prelims.
And it's, in a way, it's almost defense, right? You're going there to just stay ahead of other people on the descending order list. It's not, I need to top the world's fast. It's just, hey, make sure my mark is ahead of all these other all these other people from Arkansas, from Stanford, from New Mexico, from Colorado, whatever the school may be. Hey, this is where they're going. Well, we're going to go there. We're going to get in the fastest section and make sure that we're not getting beat by them. They're not moving up ahead of us on the list. That's why I say, yeah, if he runs, he doesn't even need a PR. If he does something in the 1320s, depending on the conditions, that would boost his stock in my estimation. I think we're going to see, though, a solid effort from him. I think he's going to run quick. I think he's just going to secure that qualifier and then look ahead to the postseason. That's just a guess. I don't know. I'm wrong about any of his race plans basically constantly. So
he'll run 1340 pace and then close in 55 and run 1335. That's probably what he'll do.
Right. Which would be enough.
The best race, I think, of the deepest with the most names is the women's 5K. So it's the 5K 2.0 ladies night edition. It's pretty good. Look at the field we have here in the women's 5K. Here we go. You got Katie Izzo, Arkansas. Kelsey Camille, NC State. Ella Donahue moving up in the 5K, Stanford. Taryn O'Neill, top 10 cross-country finisher, NAU. Ellie Hines, NC State. Lauren Gregory, Arkansas. Dominic Claremont, NC State. Devin Clark, Arkansas. Ava Cohen, New Mexico. Frenthway of BYU. Herberg of Washington. Prowse of New Mexico. Richardson of San Francisco. Shadler of Washington. And Austin, Texas' own Sarah Lancaster, who is coming off a 407 1500. She's a post-collegiate. Sarah Lancaster is an interesting story. She may win this race. She played basketball at Texas. Didn't pick up running until she graduated from school, and now in her 30s is becoming this like second wave of ability. She runs 407 in the 1500, which is good enough to qualify for trials. She's probably here trying to run sub 1520 to qualify for the trials. Pretty cool story for Sarah Lancaster. Keep an eye on her. Austin, Texas native. So that's pretty cool for us because we're from Austin. But yeah, Katie Izzo, Donahue, O'Neill, Camille, Hines. What are your thoughts on this race?
Hennis. I think Hennis is interesting because she didn't.
Sorry.
She's solid. She's been in the mix, right? She didn't have cross, but she had indoors, so she's not over raced. I look out for her. Donahue's intriguing, moving up. O'Neill had a breakout season. Gregory, yeah, you're right. It goes pretty deep, but I could see Hennis or Donahue really taking a step forward in this race and putting down something quick. 10,000s, morning edition 10,000s. You want to explain how the 10,000s are going to work, Gordon?
Yeah, so for the 10K, it's too hot in California for some reason. We almost had certain teams pull out because of the heat, but luckily they decided to show up and run this race. But they had 10K because of the heat. They're deciding to do it in the morning. So the races are, I think, at 7:30 a.m. and 8:10 a.m. West Coast time. But the rest of the meet doesn't start till 2 p.m. They're going to basically do the little morning session of the 10Ks. And the 10Ks are actually going to be pretty quick on the women's and men's side. On the women's side, you have like some of the BYU women and NAU women trying to get some good qualifier times for NCAAs. But on the men's side, you have Blaze, the NAU guys, Blaze Farrow, Abdi Hamid Nur, Ryan Raff, and they're all going to be rabbited by Nico Young to try to get them to NCAA qualifiers. But ultimately, I could see them also trying to flirt with getting a sub 28, which will qualify you for the Olympic trials, right? Because 28 flat is the Olympic trials cutoff. I could see them trying to eye 27:59, trying to qualify for the trials.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see just what the conditions allow there. A beautiful morning in the Central Valley of California. So check that all out this weekend on Friday on FloTrack. Actually, during our Friday episode, Gordon, which you will not be a part of, I'll have a guest host because you'll be traveling. I did not kick you off the show. But during the show, the 10Ks will have already started on Friday. Can we pull up? Do we have the schedule up? Can we get the schedule up for the folks? Is that possible? I don't know. Did you post that on the site?
It's on the site, yeah.
It seems like something you would have done would have been to post the schedule. That's why I'm asking. There you go. Yeah. Boom. Zoom in. Enhance on that morning time. What time's that start? Pacific time? Wow, that's early. 7:30 a.m. Pacific. So 9:30 a.m. our time. Men's 10,000. So I'll be doing live second screen commentary. No, just kidding. Of the 10,000. So it goes all day. So you have Nico pacing the 10,000 in the morning, then chilling for about, I don't know, 8 hours,
12 hours,
and then coming back at 7:10 or no, if he's in the fight, if he's 8:30. That's an interesting day of work there. And then you have those fast steeple sections, 800 sections, and 5,000 sections. Remember, those are all Pacific time. So going to have to stay up late if you're over there on the East Coast.
Big shout out
words
to
on the West Coast
on the
relays.
Big shout out to someone who on a Friday night is up at 1:45 a.m. watching the women's 5K go down. Tweet at us that you're still watching it if you're on the East Coast at 1:45 a.m. Much love. That'll be impressive. So, anyway.
Well, you sold that race.
Sold that race. They saved it for last, the women's 5K. Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple questions in the chat I wanted to get to before we talk about the latest in the Tinman coaching story. Lucas says Norman or Lyles in the 300. I would go Norman.
Yes, I would go Norman as well.
Norman's close enough in the 200. They've raced times in the 200 to make me believe that the added distance would be enough. Here's another one.
I would argue that Norman's new 100-meter PB from 2020 and Norman having beaten Lyles in a 200 recently, I could see Norman, if he went for it, could challenge Lyles in a 200 straight up. Let's say that.
Yeah, he could challenge him. I'd still take Lyles right now. But once you get past that distance, once you go beyond 200, you're getting closer to Michael Norman's best distance, which is probably a 300. He's probably in those lists of people who, if the 300 was an event, he'd be amazing at it because he's good in the 2 and good in the 4. Another question here from Luke, not Lucas. We got one from Lucas, now one from Luke. This is one for you, Gordon. When is Hawker going to run an Olympic qualifier?
That's a good question. When is he indeed? I could see it happening maybe at the Oregon Twilight meet in not this weekend, but next weekend. Because once you get to Pac-12s, it's all she wrote, right? Because then Pac-12s 2 weeks later, prelims 2 weeks later, NCAAs. I don't see it happening in any of those races. I could see Oregon trying to put together a really fast 1,500 for Hawker to qualify. I could see that. And here's
And
the
if
thing:
he
Hawker
does
also doesn't even really.
do it, then
If he doesn't, I think he's gonna be fine because I think if he just runs literally 330. So what's the standard? 335 flat. It's 335.
yeah, yes,
He just needs to run like 337 5 times, and I think his world ranking will get him up there. That's what I think.
when is he
Just
going to
runs
be able to do it
335
5 times?
5. Well, he's already run it once indoors, right? He's run his 350. He has two fast indoor performances, right? I would say.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then he has
yeah.
a most recent fast time from he ran like a 338, right? So he's just to
Mm-hmm.
run sub 340 like 2 or 3 more times, and I think his world ranking should start populating because right now he doesn't have enough races under his belt in the 1500 to populate in the world ranking. So that's why he's a no right now in world ranking or Olympic standard. So, but yeah, Oregon Twilight. That's what I think he does.
Yeah. I know we talked about this before. How aware do you think these athletes are of the world ranking situation when it comes to what they need to do to move up and where they currently stand?
I think some of them are aware. I think though most of them aren't trying to game the ranking system. They're just thinking, hey, just get the standard. They don't want to. I think they will become super aware of it once they realize that they're not getting the standard. And then they're going to be like, okay, where's my world ranking? All right. Does that mean if I get top 3 at the trials, my ranking will boost to a high enough place? But I think most athletes aren't even bothering to think about that. They're just thinking like, hey, man, just run 335. So that's what I think.
Last topic before we go. Actually, Michael wants us to do a 10-minute freestyle on Jacob Ingebrigtsen's running career. We'll save that one for Friday when we have our guest, who's not Jacob the way. Let's talk about the Tinman situation, the Tinman story. We were going to talk about it on Monday, and then news broke, so we waited. We run low on time, but we can put up here the statement that Tinman Elite released about how they parted ways with their coach, Tom Schwartz. I'll just read a portion of it. He says, it became clear to the team that Coach Schwartz's growing commercial coaching business and other pursuits made him unable to provide the individualized attention that the team needed in order to stay healthy and succeed long-term. Despite parting ways with Coach Schwartz, the team has continued to uphold the mutually agreed upon compensation we committed to provide in our initial coaching agreement, providing him time and support as he determines his next steps. Wish Coach Schwartz well and thank him for his time with the team. And then they say they're focused on the trials. But then shortly after that, there was his wife, Let's Run, wrote an article. I guess it aggregated posts that on the message board. But basically, there was a bullet point response to what happened. I'm not going to read all 12 bullet points. It was rather detailed in some instances, and in other parts it was somewhat vague, alluding to like, well, I wonder if this person wasn't involved, then maybe they wouldn't have left Coach Schwartz, and they don't really name the person that's involved. What was your takeaway, Gordon? I'm guessing you read all of the bullet points and the 1,000+ word response here from Schwartz's wife.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's kind of ridiculous what is going on the more and more you think about it. Because I forget who I'm trying to find the person who tweeted something. I can't remember the person, so I won't say it. But it is weird that if you read, first of all, Schwartzman's wife was like using the words fact, this, fact, this, fiction, this. It's like a little crazy. And basically, it definitely read that at least Schwartz's wife really reads the comments. She's really into the comments. She really reads the message thread. That she reads the boards, which is kind of like hey, you probably shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't let a bunch of teenagers or whoever is commenting like LOL, Tinman sucks or whatever. You shouldn't let that be reality, because it's not reality. The reality is the people who are around you and the people
Hmm.
who actually care about what you're doing. You shouldn't let
Yeah.
anonymous posters affect your well-being. But yeah, anyway, basically, Tammy, first of all, number one, why are we hearing from the wife of Tinman and not from Tinman himself? And also, number two, why are we hearing from the mother of Drew Hunter and not Drew Hunter himself? It's very
Hmm.
weird. It's like a game of telephone of what is going on here. Um, I can kind of, this is what I think. I could be wrong. I'm not reporting this. This is just Gordon's opinion of what I think is happening. I think Drew Hunter and their team, the Tinman Elite people, I think they felt that Coach Schwartz wasn't doing things that the way they wanted it to be done. And I think at first, when they were young and didn't have as much power, and just like, yeah, when like your freshman year, you're listening to everything your coach says, right? Freshman year, coach, you say everything, yeah, okay. But then by the time senior year, you feel like you know yourself better than your coach knows you, so you feel like you can kind of do things more on your own. And I think that the athletes kind of felt more empowered as years went on to be like, hey, we want to do this solo now. We don't need you anymore. Thanks. Have a good one. And unfortunately, the way Tinman Elite's whole team was structured was not a typical way it happens. It wasn't structured from top down. It was structured from bottom up. And by that, I mean Drew Hunter, who is the athlete, was in charge as opposed to the brand and the coach being in charge. And because of that, the people at top, which was the coach, are expendable, and it makes it's like an upside down pyramid. It's just like, what's going on, and it tipped over, and now it has this whole thing with he said, she said. You have the coach's
Well,
wife publicly talking shit on the athletes to be like, oh, Drew was influenced by teammates to make the wrong move. But like, come on, like, we're all adults. Basically, it's a bad breakup, and everyone is going at each other. But I could go on and on. I want to bring up this
well,
recent tweet though. Oh, wait, before we put it up, wait, go. Sorry.
well, no, I was just gonna say, athletes hire coaches, right? The coach, when you get to a pro, the coach works for the athlete. So that's important to clarify. But I think you made a good point last episode when you said the difference was here, the coach had to leave the group. The athlete didn't leave the group because of the way the group was structured. And some of the lists in here, like, it obviously had to do with money. She talks about the salary that he got. She talks about the training plans that were sold that he didn't get the money from. That's the coach, that the athletes got. Talks about the other, the racing schedule that the athletes would pick and the coach didn't have say in. She talks about the apparel, like sales and everything like that. And then she mentions that the coach got mad about them using inappropriate language on social media. I mean, if this whole thing broke apart because of inappropriate language on social media, then the bond between them really wasn't as close as it was purported to be. That just does not seem to measure up. But here's the key sentence here in what she wrote. I guess we as a family learned a valuable lesson that is to never trust a bunch of 20-year-olds and relocate without a solid contract backed by a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Why were lawyers involved? Why was there contract here, a clear understanding of what the responsibilities were, who had financial stake in what money was going to go to whom and how? And I think, they needed to clarify that. And from the coaching perspective, like, he needed to clarify that if he wanted stuff involved, like if he wanted the training plan, a portion of the training plans, et cetera, like that needed to be spelled out. Like, they thought that he was just gonna coach this group and there was just gonna be a handshake agreement.
Well,
a
like,
signature on a napkin, and that's it.
how long has Tinman Elite been selling gear and apparel? Like,
I mean,
over 2 years? I don't know. How long?
yeah, I mean,
It's not been
since
overnight.
obviously, right. It's been
Yeah.
at least a couple years.
And it's not until there's a separation when you're going to complain about not getting royalties for your name. It's like, you should have been like, hey, when they made their first t-shirt, you'd have been like, hey, you guys are selling a t-shirt with my name on it. I think we should probably work out an agreement. This name, you guys named this team after me, so I should probably
Right.
have some licensing deal or whatever. Figure it out, right? And be professional. If we're going to start a business, which is what Tinman Elite did, they literally started businesses. They were selling t-shirts. They were
Yeah.
a social media company. They were a production company. They were hiring someone to shoot and edit videos. There's salaries involved.
Mhm.
You should dot your I's and cross your T's. And I think Tinman Coach Schwartz kind of just took everything for granted and be like, oh yeah, well, like we're just like having fun making t-shirts and we're just like doing this stuff. It's fine. Like, whatever. We're all on the same team. It's like, no, when money is starting to transfer and things are starting to grow,
Yeah.
you guys start getting it under you. And if you look at this tweet that we have here, put it up. Apparently, on December 1st of 2020, Tinman Elite filed 3 trademarks for their name. So we put that up. Can we put it up on the screen, Alon? Is Alon there? We might have lost. There he is.
There he is.
So
Alon's
yeah,
done with us.
right, like,
that was good.
yeah, Alon's done with us. And I believe
Yeah.
if you scroll down, the person who tweeted this is Jeff. He tweeted it. I think it's all on the person who filed the trademark is Drew Hunter. It wasn't Tinman Schwartz. So
Interesting.
this happened. This happened December 2020, and then apparently this team kind of broke up. Not just today or this past week. It was a few months ago. So this could have been right before it all happened. This is just, you kind of can feel bad for Tom Schwartz, right? Because you could have the perspective he got hoodwinked by a bunch of 20-year-olds, as Tammy, his wife, says. But at the same time, are you really being hoodwinked? You should also he had an opportunity to take control of the situation, and he didn't. He let Drew Hunter be in control of the situation. And maybe the reason why Drew was in control of the situation is because he was the one with the big Adidas contract, so he kind of had the power. This whole thing, there's mistakes on both ends. You could argue there's mistakes on Tinman, the athlete side, for letting it get to this and not figuring out a way to, not let the breakup look this bad. Because maybe if they would have been more about the professional side of like, hey, involving Tinman, and then when we do break up with him, it's a lot more amicable the way when a normal athlete leaves a different training group. There's no like, oh my God, Colleen Quigley left Bowerman. It's like, all right, no, it's just like Colleen Quigley left Bowerman because she wants something different.
Yeah.
Kate Grace left Bowerman because she wants something different. So.
Here's the thing, though. When you make a statement like, I guess we learned never to trust a bunch of 20-year-olds without a lawyer, like, I'm going to err on the side of thinking, yes, you're correct, and that's on you, right? As a professional coach, as someone who aspires to be a professional coach, as someone who already is a professional coach in some capacity, the online coaching, right? He's getting money from high school athletes and athletes that are farther along in their career, that you should have this stuff written out if that's your desire. Somebody here, Mike, on the chat question, you think the origin of the feud is results driven? I mean, I think it's both, right? I mean, if they're smashing PRs week after week, you can figure out a way to make it work because then everybody's happy. I think when there's some discontent, I think it spreads, and then there's the whole lack of respect, and then all that stuff that grows. But I think it is related to both. But obviously, if you had, if they were performing better on the track as well too, I think some of it would not have seemed as bad, because it seemed like everybody was just there were a lack of respect going around, like, or a feeling of a lack of respect. But it's like, I don't know what to say when it's like you're trying to be a professional coach, right? And she talks about he only got a beginning teacher salary. Listen, first of all, as someone who was a beginning teacher at one point, salary wasn't great, but detract.
That's a low-key dunk on teachers, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I don't appreciate it. Number one, but like, okay, so you're getting paid a beginning teacher salary to coach this group, and then you're also continuing to coach your other athletes with your online coaching business. You're making a living. Are you getting enough? Well, I mean, that's for you and the group to decide. But look, how many people were sponsored in this group? How much money did they have in this group? First of all, they weren't flush with cash, right? Drew was getting an Adidas contract. Hunter had an Adidas contract. Parsons have an Adidas contract? Maybe. But then there's
maybe.
Well, and in the beginning, maybe not. Maybe since then he has. But you had this whole, like you said, a business, right, that they were creating that was supporting all these other athletes and all these other endeavors. I don't think anybody was really getting rich off of this group. And there's not that many pro coaches out there who are making I hate to disabuse people of that notion right now, but a ton of money in the sport. So if you're making even a quote unquote beginning teacher salary as a baseline, and then you're making more money on top of that because of other coaching gigs that you have, you're not too far out of the ordinary when it comes to pro coaching.
I was talking to someone about this whole situation, and Tinman Elite is a very polarizing team. Like I said from a podcast or two ago about how people like to dunk on there whenever they don't do well, and people kind of jealous of their success on social media and all that stuff. And I argued that like they're probably more successful in my mind to Bowerman because they have a business model that is growing their brand, as opposed to Bowerman isn't really growing their brand as much. They're definitely better athletically, but that only moves the needle so much in this generation of people who want to see things on the internet and all that good stuff. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is I think there are a lot of people who are Tinman supporters and a lot of people, Tinman Elite. There are a lot of people who are Tinman Elite fans and a lot of people who are Tinman Elite anti-fans, right? And after this whole situation, the same people who supported Tinman Elite are going to continue to support Tinman Elite, and the same people who didn't like Tinman Elite are just going to have this little extra reason not to like Tinman Elite. Nothing is changing here with the demographics of the fandom of Tinman Elite. Like, the people who liked them before are going to still like them after. People who didn't like them before aren't going to like them after.
Right.
And the world's going to keep going round, and these guys are going to continue to train. Like, they're not, like, life is like, we're going to forget. Yeah. Like, this is going to be old news, and, like, life is going to move on.
Why do people not like them? Because they post online. That's it. That's the reason why. And people, because there's such a vacuum.
And they try.
And they try. Oh, my goodness. Oh, heavens. They put posts on Instagram.
Fast. Oh, no.
Oh, how dare they? I mean, listen, it's kind of crazy, but there's such a vacuum in the sport of people who put their stories out there that anybody that does, you immediately get that 50-50 polarization of a bunch of people love it, and then the other half just hates on it. Just because it's out there, just because there's nothing else to comment on. But you have to ask yourself with this, like, why are people so mad about them? Like, what is it that engenders like such a backlash? Like, you can say, oh, they should be faster. Well, I'm sure they would say that themselves. Everybody wants to be faster. Welcome to professional running. Everybody wants to be faster, wants to make more money, and wants to win more medals. You're not saying anything novel at that point. All they're doing is just trying to improve and posting it online, which is exactly what most people would do given the situation, right? All the people sitting commenting, I'll do it too. I mean, I'm sure everybody posts on Strava and comments on their own social media when they run their 17-minute 5K, right? But like when they do it, all of a sudden it's people get angry about it. It's pretty incredible. And then if you're gonna like if you're going to take an oppositional point of view in this case, it's like, all right, well, so you're of the agreement that this thing broke up because they cussed in their social media posts. Like, that's where you want to land. That's who you want to roll with in this argument. Like, I mean, what are we doing here? I don't know. The relationship ran its course. The relationship ran its course, right? And that's fine.
Yeah.
Listen, Jenny Simpson switched coaches. She's got a gold medal and a bunch of other medals. Matt Centrowitz has switched coaches. He's got a gold medal, right? I mean, this stuff happens. Emma Coburn has switched coaches. She has a gold medal. Switching coaches happens. It's not a big deal. Difference is here, all the dirty laundry is aired, and now we have patents being posted online and 13 bullet points written. That's the only difference here, is there's just all the dirty laundry is being aired. But the idea that you change a coach is not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Hey, for the record, Sam, I'm not taking shots at a 17-minute 5K. I cannot run a 17-minute 5K right now. All I'm saying is,
do you know who can run a 17-minute 5K?
JoJo can run a 17-minute 5K. We all know that, Gordon. Okay, so all I'm saying is, everybody's posting everything for the most part. So why do we not expect pros to post when it's their job to post?
Yep.
If you're not offended by your friend posting about their turkey trot results, why are you getting so mad about a professional group who has a financial interest in sharing their story posting? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of people say you can't have a brand unless you are literally Olympic champions. Like, it's like only people who can do brand things are Bowerman and the Ineos guys, breaking two. You need to be breaking two in the marathon. It's Kipchoge and Bolt. They're the only ones who are allowed to have a brand and be professionals. If you're a 13:30 5K runner, you can't do that, apparently, according to the rules of the unwritten rule book. Stupid. Come on. You can do whatever you want.
Here's the thing.
It's the internet.
Those are the people who don't need to post on social media because they have so much money coming from other spaces. How many tweets has Kawhi Leonard sent in his life? Right? He doesn't need to. Eliud Kipchoge doesn't need to tweet. He's still going to tweet. Bolt's still going to tweet, but they don't need to. The people who need to are the people, the big cross-section of not perennial gold medal winners and everybody else. That's the people who need to, because they're the ones who are trying to make it in the sport and make a living. I don't know. It's interesting. Samuel also says technically high school coaches make a salary. They do. But here's the thing. Teach all day long. That's their job. They're not just coaching. So they're getting paid to teach as well. So if you get a teacher salary, but you're not teaching, you're doing pretty well. You're doing pretty well because you're not writing lesson plans for 6 periods a day of English 9 and English 9 honors. You're not doing that, right? You're just coaching. I think people would be, tell me if I'm wrong here, Gordon. You've been around this longer than I have. Wouldn't people be surprised if they found out how much money most professional coaches make, or just professional people in the sport make? Would they not be surprised that it's not as high as they think?
Yeah. And can I do a confession? Can I have a confession? This whole Tinman Elite name. Yeah, no, I've never run a 17. No, I ran 17:30 maybe.
Definitely not at the MLB Fan Cave. Yeah.
No, definitely not that. But when I was just honest, maybe I am naive and I should have known this, but I didn't know Tinman Elite's name came from the nickname of their coach. I just thought it was their name. And so I think there's a lot of people who are probably like me who don't really associate Tinman Elite, now I know, so I do associate it, but maybe they don't really associate the phrase Tinman Elite to like the way Bowerman is, because Bowerman is like the famous Bowerman coach, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's in the end, we're just gonna move on. Coach Tom Schwartz continue to coach high school kids around the country, to 4 flat miles, and it's going to be great for him. And Tinman Elite will continue to do their thing. They'll continue to win races and continue to lose races, and the world will continue to go around, and we will find a new thing to freak out about on the internet in a few weeks. That's what's going to happen. So that's
in the running world specifically.
Yeah, in the running world.
And people get mad about people posting on the internet that they voluntarily choose to look at. It's great. All right. We'll leave it there.
Overtime.
What's my favorite book? Michael wants to know what's my favorite book to teach. Now we're getting into teacher talk here. Man, this Great Gatsby was good. But I'll go into that more on Friday's show with our guest host. Romeo and Juliet, also a winner. Kids love Romeo
Lord
and
of
Juliet.
the Flies.
Lord of the Flies. I taught Lord of the Flies as well too. Yeah, kids love Lord of the Flies too. They think it's trip the first time they read it. Also, it's pretty straightforward.
Whoa, they're killing someone? That's crazy.
FloTrack podcast at gmail.com is the email address. Thanks to Travis and thanks to Lon for producing. Safe Levels Gordon. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Remember, Coach Relays on Friday, and we'll have a special guest co-host with me on Friday. See you guys then. Subscribe.